Okay. Yeah. That's true.
Got better names for Rowdy than Nikki Haley, president.
Sorry?
So you have better name priorities than.
Oh. Well, I'm glad to hear that, but you're the first person to tell me. I got voice experience for the first time today. But your music to my ears to say you know my name, so thank you. It's the game of marketing, right? That's the goal.
Yeah.
Okay, are we ready to start? Hi everyone, my name is Jill Chang and I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing here at Bayview. Thank you so much for joining us. I am so grateful for everyone here. I see some new faces, some returning prospects, an incoming resident. Hi Judy, and some of our waitlist members here too, so thank you so much. We're so grateful that you're investing your time today here. I'm going to keep my intro really brief because I would love to have Beth take over here. But just very briefly about Bayview. So Bayview is a 62 plus nonprofit life plan community here on Queen Anne. And we have all levels of care, independent living, assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing. And a very unique part of Bayview is that we have a children's center on site. And we also have a supporting entity called the Bayview Manor Foundation that supports residents here who run out of financial resources at no fault of your own. And so it's a great supporting entity here. Very briefly on the overview of today. So before I introduce the wonderful Beth, please, we encourage you to ask any questions throughout the presentation. And when the presentation is over, we'll take about 10 to 15 minutes to go to the restroom, certainly to talk with Beth directly, or myself, or Grace Michaels, our marketing coordinator. And then on your name badge, there's a number, and we'll have resident tour guides, including myself, for an opportunity to tour Bayview afterwards and look at apartments too. And so we'll split up into groups among 4 tour groups. You look at my little cheat sheet here. I think that's everything. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce Beth Toomey here. Beth is the Global Luxury Director at Coldwell Banker Bain. And she's a trusted realtor here for over 18 years now. And we're so excited that she has come today to bring her wealth of experience and her knowledge to Bayview and to all of you today. And so I'm going to keep this very brief, and please give her a warm welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's great to be with you this afternoon. I'm just calculating, she said I've been doing this for 18 years. I've been in sales and marketing for 42 years, which means I qualify to be a Bayview resident. And this is my new favorite. I love the fact, just to give them 2 cents, I just love that they have the children's program here. I was just telling someone about the program, I was telling you about the program that Sweden started, where assisted living retirement homes have worked with children. And so Bayview is way ahead of the curve in terms of being progressive. I love that. So kudos to you all. So my name is, as Jill said, is Beth Toomey. I am a local Seattleite. I grew up in Capitol Hill. My folks moved to Laurelhurst for my teenage years. I went off to school in the Midwest at the University of Notre Dame, spent a year abroad in France, fell in love with architecture, and that ultimately brought me full circle to be a realtor. I started in the business 18 years ago. My mom, I'm a second generation, my mom was in the business 35 years ago. Bill Bain actually hired her. And just to give you a little bit of background, so Coldwell Banker Bain is the largest and most successful affiliate for Coldwell Banker. Coldwell Banker, some of you may have read in the news, just acquired us last fall. So the good news, what that means for all of you, is that I have an even larger arsenal to help you market and sell your homes. So my objective today is to tell you a little bit about myself, a little bit about my company, a little bit about the market, and then finally, the meat and potatoes of my presentation is 6 steps to sell your home. I try to make it manageable. I try to make it a fluid process. Selling your home is a big deal. It's a big life transition. So my job is to make it manageable for you. in bite-sized pieces. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that today. So I have many titles. That just comes with age, age and expertise, I think. But the most important one, the most relevant one for you all is that I am a senior real estate specialist. And we realtors love acronyms, SRES. That means I have worked with many families over the years to help them downsize their home, sell their home and move into a retirement facility like this one, like Bayview. So I have a stable of trusted partners who are painters, who are contractors, who are window washers that help me make this happen. So you are not alone in this process. West Virginia, I can find you all those people, but here in Seattle, I have them at my fingertips and on speed dial. So anyway, that's one of the things that makes me a little bit unique because I've done this for a long time. I think I've seen almost everything out there. But that's why I love my job. Things change. I have to always be on my toes. It's fun. I love what I do for a living, and it's fun to get to help people at these pivotal moments in their lives. So as a global luxury director, that means I sell some very beautiful homes that are on the water, that are luxury. But I also want to assure you, I help school teachers buy their first homes. That's my job, is to help people find a home. And it gives me great joy to do that. So I do the whole gamut. I have this very fancy title for my luxury homes, and my people selling luxury homes really like and appreciate that. But I will say, I treat everyone the same. So whether you're selling, a $4 million property or a $400,000 condo, you get the same treatment, like love treatment from me. That's just how I treat people. Okay, so and then I have a few other designations here that are great for marketing. They're great for I have a global sphere and a personal sphere. So that helps you when downsizing and networking around the world. So people say, why is that relevant, Beth? Well, it's relevant because we still are a global city. People forget all the time that we're a major global port of Seattle. So we have people come here from all over the world, and people think it's all tech. Well, it's not necessarily all tech. I work with this darling girl from Paris who came to work at the Gates Foundation. I've worked with people, many doctors coming to work at Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center, Seattle Children's, or the University of Washington. Boeing has great paying jobs. So tech is very in vogue, very sexy, but it's not all about tech. We have a healthy balance of various industries here in Seattle. So then I want to go to the next, I want to tell you a little bit about my company. So we're a little biased, which you might expect. As I said, I've been with Coldwell Banker for 18 years. I'm tried and true. We have terrific management. And we have the ability to talk with people and connect with people all over the world. So just a few stats to show you. Our average home sales price is 31% higher than the Northwest Multiple Listing Service, so than our competitors. We have a consortium here in the Pacific Northwest, so that's why it's called the Northwest Multiple Listing Service. That's where everyone puts and publishes the listings of your home. And then nationally, down here in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see that we beat the national average. The National Association of Realtors tracks all of this by 20.7%. How do we do that? Well, we're really good at pricing. So, and I'm going to get into that actually in one of my notes here, but actually I'm going to wait to get into that. But we're really good about pricing. So we look at all the comps in your neighborhood, we look at the condition of your home, curb appeal. There's many factors that help us price a home properly, but you have to do it properly. This is no longer the irrationally exuberant market of last year. So just to tell you a little bit about Coldwell Banker again, here, Coldwell Banker Bain, again, here in the Northwest, this shows you where we are. So I have sold homes. People ask me all the time, where do I sell homes? I've sold beautiful homes out in Port Townsend. I've sold homes in Port Ludlow. I range from Magnolia, Queen Anne, all the way out to Sammamish, Kirkland, Northeast Seattle, Laurelhurst. So I now go wherever my clients need me to. After 18 years of the business, my business is 99.9% referral-based business, which is great because my clients have all been really cold for me. I get to work with lovely people. My only criteria, when people interview me, I tell them, well, you're interviewing me, but I'm also interviewing you because I only have one criteria. I only work with nice people. I'm dead serious. At my point in life and in my career, if someone's a fuss budget or not nice. I'll refer them to one of my colleagues. It's lovely to be in that position, but it's the truth. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the market before I jump into this. So the market, here. So as you all know, the market has changed considerably since a year ago. It was irrationally exuberant. We would have 15 offers. It was crazy. Homes were going for hundreds of thousands over the list price. I quite frankly am relieved that we're coming back down to a more balanced market so that we can be more practical in the purchase and sales process. I don't want my buyers waiving inspection. I don't want my buyers putting down non-refundable money. Now, as sellers, that all sounds attractive to you. However, the purchase and sale documents are written to protect both the seller and the buyer. And there's a reason they're written the way they are written. So I really like and I'm much more comfortable with this return to normalcy because there are fundamentals that have been missed in the last 3 years, which is kind of crazy to me. I tend to be a little on the conservative side, a little thorough, and very protective of my clients. My job is also to protect you from a lawsuit as sellers. So I take all of that very seriously. So just wanted to give you a little bit of facts about the appreciation in this particular zip code. So 17% down in inventory from 2021 over to 2022. The prices were up last year by 46%. So that was a little bit of the insanity, the irrational exuberance that I call it. That is no longer the case. So when you're selling a home now in this more fluid market, you need to sell it properly priced and staged and everything else I'm going to get into momentarily here. The other thing I want to talk about is, let's see. So January 2003 market 3 is 4 to 6 months inventory. Though you've got this in your brochure. I just printed this out. Months of inventory. So you'll hear about a balanced market. We've been in a seller's market for the last 3 years. We're returning to a little bit more balance. A balanced market is considered 4 to 6 months of inventory. In January 22, we had 0.61%. And this year we have 2.52% of inventory. So slowly, as January edges into February, into March, we expect to have more inventory on the market. In your packet, you will also see the multicolor, I think it's on the right page, graph that talks a little bit, shows you the last 5 or 10 years, and it shows you where inventory is. So people are concerned about inflation, about this war in Ukraine, some of the layoffs we've had, that gives us a psychological hit. But the good news for all of you sellers is that there is no inventory. So now is a great time to put your home on the market. We are still seeing, if the home is priced properly, I brought on this beautiful home in Montlake for $1.2 million, and we had multiple offers the first week of December. I also sold a home in Queen Anne on Christmas Eve this year. So it's really interesting. There is demand. It's supply and demand, and there is demand. So if you're hesitant about selling your home, come talk to me at the break. But there really is demand. So feel free to, I'll be happy to elaborate more on that. But I just wanted to give you a snapshot of real time of what the market is doing. So let's get into how to successfully sell your home. So a couple of things, these are the 6, this is my outline. So step 1 is a comparative market analysis. We realtors really like acronyms, so it's called a CMA. But that's where we take all of the homes in your neighborhood, we look at the similar curb appeal, we look at similar finishes. So we come up with a market price that is competitive. That's what that is. I'm going to delve into these all in a minute. Step 2 is preparation. How and what do you do to sell your home and get the best and highest return on your original investment? Step 3 is marketing. What do we do for marketing? What do I use for my video and photography? Step 4 is going live on the market. Step 5 is mutual acceptance. What happens then? Everybody thinks it's done. It's not. You're just beginning inspection and a few other aspects of the process. And step 6 is the grand finale. You cross the finish line. That's my job, is to vet all prospective buyers and get you across the finish line. So people say, oh my gosh, it's all cash. Well, all cash is only good if they can prove to me they've got the money in the market. And I've had somebody last year say to me, oh, well, my mom can send you a note. She's going to give me the money. And I said, no, that isn't good enough. You need to have the money in your bank account today. So there's all these little details that we veteran agents look out for to protect you. I'm not going to sign you up with somebody, so it went to the number 2 buyer. I had six offers on this home. But so everything is not, you have to look at all the details and be diligent throughout this process. Okay, so let's jump in. So step number 1, creating a comparative market analysis. As I said, we're going to look at homes that are similar to yours. So we do macro and micro. I look generally what's in the neighborhood. So for instance, if you've got a Tudor in Queen Anne, I might also look at Magnolia just to see what the activity has been in the last, I really prefer the last 2 to 3 months. And that can be tricky sometimes, but I want, after the stock market crashed, well, before Ukraine, it's almost a year ago now, but inflation is making the news, layoffs is making the news. So I want real time. I want to see how the market is reacting to our daily world. So I look at the condition of the bathrooms, of the kitchen. Do you have a view, a non-view? Are you waterfront? So I look at all these attributes to figure out where we're going to land. Then I take the active listings, which means they're on the market now, the pending listings, which means they have got to mutual acceptance and are going through financing and sometimes an inspection process. And I call all those agents to say, what did this home go for? How many offers did you have? Can you tell me if you went north or south of list price? And most of the time the agents are willing to share that information. And that helps me give you real-time data to figure out where we're going to list your home. So review all the market activity, review condition of each home, and then review title and tax records. We want to know if there's an easement. We want to know if there's a fence that's on your neighbor's property. So it's a very comprehensive package that I do to dot every I and cross every T. Okay, next step. So we're going to prepare your home for market. And the big question that people ask me is, should I stage my home or should I not? And that's a variable. If your home has furniture from the 1960s or 70s, I might say, you know what, we need a refresh. This is your home, it's comfortable, all these things make you happy. But a new buyer coming in may or not be a young working couple, they may have a baby, it may be a family with 3 kids. So we want a more neutral palette to sell your home. So when I say staging, I always want to be really careful that I'm not going to offend anyone. But I've done this to my parents many times. So we'll just accent the positive. The other thing is if you have a collection, I've had several people have collections of, bonsai plants or orchids or, fantastic art collection. Sometimes people get a little bit distracted by all those things in your home. We want them to walk into your home and look at your fantastic living room and your view. If you have a view of Mount Rainier, Lake Washington, or even a territorial view of Queen Anne. So I don't want them walking through your home like I just did. I walked through and read every single one of these beautiful notations. I mean, really inspirational, perfect for a chapel, and really lovely, very moving. But I don't want people doing that in your home. I want them to walk in and look at the view, look at the kitchen, look at the primary suite. That's another big one. We no longer call it the master, we call it the primary suite. So that's just something to talk a little bit about further, and that's a case by case, just so you know. I don't have a blanket solution. I customize my strategy for every single home that I represent.
I got a question.
Sure, oh yeah, please do. Please interrupt me.
I hear other people say this for friends and so on, that sometimes they're realtors and they're selling homes, say, it's better not to have some room even furnished, just to show the spaces. They have rooms with nice spaces and so forth. I understand the main rooms being furnished nicely or staged nicely, but what's your, again, case by case basis?
Sure, so the question, yes. So the question is, do I need to stage every single room? He's got friends who have told him, just leave it empty so people can see everything. I disagree with that, and here's why. People have no imagination. So, and they also, if you have an empty house, there's no place to sit. So when you walk in a home and you say, or you come home at the end of the day, that is a comfort thing. This home speaks to you. And I tell my buyers all the time, you'll know it when you see it and when you experience it. And that sounds a little foofy or kumbaya-esque, but it's true. Even my hard-driven CEOs will say, oh gosh, Beth, that was such a fluff, but you're right. This speaks to me. So I've done this long enough to say, I don't recommend that. Only because people want a place to sit down and they can't imagine, you would think it's kind of contrary. You would think they're gonna think, oh my gosh, my art can go right here, my armoire can go there. It's not the case. It feels naked and sterile. So no, I always say, let's use your furniture, let's bring in a portion of staging. That's a really good question. But my answer is a firm no. And I really would rather have furniture so that it feels like a home, not an empty skeleton. We want it to feel like a home. We are romancing your buyers. My job is to get the highest and best return on your original investment. So it needs to sparkle. It needs to be welcoming. I'm going to jump ahead of myself here, but one of the things I'm big on, I'm a gardener. So is if I can put some evergreen Saratoga outside your front door and the fragrance just wafts as you walk by, I'm romancing the potential buyer. I want them, they may or may not be cognizant of it, but when you hit all the senses, it's a big deal. The brain reacts to all that in a very positive manner. So that's my answer for that. Please, this is meant to be interactive. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. So anyway, where am I going back? Okay, so it takes a little bit of process. So deep cleaning, we're going to clean behind the refrigerator. Some people haven't been back there in years. Clean the carpets. We're going to clean and perhaps shear, but we're going to clean up the backyard and the front yard. You have one shot at a first impression, and that's very important. So I'll bring my landscapers in, we'll put fresh mulch out, depending on the season. Right now I would put crocuses, daffodils, and tulips in. So that's a side benefit. I'm a gardener. I've been hired for all kinds of funny reasons. I'm a gardener, I'm a dog owner, I rescue dogs. It's really funny what people do. But at the end of the day, I'm confident I can get your top dollar. Then the other thing is outside the home, we need to clean all the windows and the gutters prior to your photo shoot. So for instance, I have a drone that I use often, and this adds a little drama to my listings. So say I was putting Baby on the market. I would have a drone come out over the Puget Sound and whisk up to this fantastic building and showcase this wonderful walkway and garden out in front. And of course, showcase the incredible views. So the reason your roof needs to be clean is because I'm doing an aerial. I'm doing a bird's eye view of your home to show the location as it relates to Lake Washington, as it relates to the University of Washington, to the Arboretum, to whatever it is, the Bellevue Botanical Gardens. So I make it compelling that that's why your roof needs to be clean. So spruce up with seasonal fragrant flowers in the yard, hitting all the senses. So I install a sign, and for those of you who have not sold a home in a while, I have to call 811, and the utilities will come out and mark where their lines are. I'm not going to have my sign company penetrate somebody's sprinkler system or, electrical line. So just so you know, there will be some orange and yellow signs, spray painting out in your front yard. So I don't ever like to surprise anyone with that. I tell them that up front. The other thing is I like to review the purchase and sale agreement with you so that you understand the details and are comfortable and have a chance to review it leisurely before we're in the heat of the moment and we have a buyer for your home. So I like to go through that with you as well. And I'll review title with you. I also believe in conducting an inspection, a pre-inspection, and a sewer scope. And the reason for that in Seattle, more so than Bellevue, but Seattle we have 100-year-old homes and we have 100-year-old sewer systems and lines. And that can be problematic. And I just experienced that 2 weeks ago. I bought my home in View Ridge, 14 years ago, 12 years ago, I replaced part of the line. They should have gone all the way up to the street, but they didn't. So I got to replace the line going out to the city main 2 weeks ago. That was a lot of fun. So I feel your pain. I've lived through all of this as well. I've had 3 different homes. So the bottom line is we conduct a pre-inspection and a sewer scope so we are completely transparent to any buyer. And this is how I help generate a bidding war. So we're showing everyone that you've taken great care of your home, and if there was a repair made, we have done the repair prior to coming on the market. In some cases, someone will say, Beth, I don't want to buy a new furnace. So we'll say, okay, it needs new furnace. And here are 2 estimates. So I get 2 estimates so that we've done the work for everyone. So that, once again, we're being just completely transparent. so that they can figure out their budget and they feel much more comfortable walking into this transaction saying, hey, Beth, I want to make an offer on your listing because I feel comfortable with everything that you have showed me, completely transparent. The other thing is, not all inspectors are created equal. I don't want just anyone coming through your home, because sometimes if you've got a rookie, they punch a hole in the, in the ceiling, or ridiculous things that are not going to happen on my watch. My inspectors have worked with me for decades. They're great. So again, I'm being protective of you, but we're presenting your home in the best light possible so that someone feels comfortable making an offer, and hopefully we can generate bidding wars. Yes.
You mentioned, the furnace that needs replacing, so you get estimates. The thing I'm concerned about, when we bought our home, we bought a gas stove.
Sure.
And, that was a great thing then, but now you read about gas, and I'm wondering, should we buy an electric stove or an induction stove and put that in before we put the house on the market? How much of it, and we have a really good ventilation hood thing, but, still, like, how much of a concern is that for buyers, the whole gas thing?
Sure. So the question is about a gas stove and furnace.
And gas.
So the furnace is, yeah. So there's a lot of news in the media in the last 6 months about, okay, maybe we need to go to induction. Maybe gas isn't so good for you if you're breathing. I will say your ventilation system is huge. So if you've got a fantastic ventilation system, that's half the battle. So again, this is sort of subjective. I'd probably like to come see it. And I actually test the ventilation system. If it can hold up a piece of toilet paper, it's got a good suction. It must have a good suction. If you live in a home where the microwave is above your stove and the little Ditzel fan doesn't really pull fumes and gas, then that's not gonna work. So in that instance, I would say, hey, we're gonna need to get rid of the, I don't necessarily want you to buy a whole new furnace. That's an expensive transaction. But let's be creative here, and let's change your ventilation system. Buying a new hood, you're gonna 86 the microwave, but you can get a microwave and put it in the corner. Let's get real ventilation here, and that may help you. So that's, again, a case by case. If you've got a really old gas furnace, I might say, let's get some bids and see what makes sense. Ultimately, you all are the decision maker. My job is to tell you what you're going to get your money back on. So you get your money typically back on kitchens and bathrooms. That's really where you get your money back. But you're right, this is a new item that people are talking about. There's a buzz about. Do you want to replace that or not? So again, it depends on how old is it, how is your ventilation system. So I really do those case by case, and you're right, that's a new concern that people are talking about. So that's a really good question. And again, I would do it case by case. If it was an antique furnace, I might say, you know what, let's just get a new one. But if it's a decent shape and you have maintained it over the years and serviced it, then I would say, let's just perhaps get a new ventilation system. So again, it's sort of case by case. Does that make sense to you? Any other questions on that? Really good question, because that is kind of new. My sister-in-law just got induction and loves it. So that is a question. Okay, so next up is the actual marketing. And again, as I said, you have one shot at a first impression. The picture on your home and the lead photo needs to sparkle, because we want people to click on it on social media and see your home. So I work with fantastic photographers. My drone operators, my videographers, stagers, all are held to the same high standard. And again, I've worked with these people for over a decade. And even my lender I've worked with for, golly, about 12 or 14 years now. So buyers buy houses they fall in love with. So back to the staging question, beautiful staging, stunning photography, and engaging videos inspire people. I want to go see that home. And that's half the battle. You have to get them inside your home. So I work really hard. My photographers are great. They're very creative. So I do everything I can to position your home between, fresh tulips on the dining room table to your manicured front and backyard. All of those things come into consideration when we're putting your home on the market. One of the things I love to do to add a personal touch is a love letter from the seller. All of the things you've loved about your home. And I call it my top 10 list. So people put down, I love that my kids can walk to the bakery down the street. I love that I can walk around Green Lake for my morning walk every morning. I love that the sun comes up and I can see the sunrise from my pillow. So little things that they love. Some people have Halloween parties on the street. They have 4th of July parties. So any little traditions or things that a buyer might not know about your home and your neighborhood, if you put that in a letter, I laminate that and I put that on the dining room table. So people who are moving here from out of state or a different neighborhood, if you are moving here from Tacoma because you're getting married and you don't really know the neighborhoods, this really helps you. So we're trying to do everything we can to give people an enlightened and informed decision. I create feature cards. So you'll see these little feature cards. Great deck for spring and summer entertaining. Lots of storage behind these closed doors. New kitchen completely remodeled by the sellers. So I'm bringing in a home on Capitol Hill, this very large home actually, and they have a ton of storage in the 3rd floor, which used to be the attic. They've completely finished it. But it's as big as this room, and there's storage. I mean, it's great. It's kids' delight because it's great hiding. They can crawl along the whole length of the room. But so we want to highlight those things. Young families in particular want storage. People who are active skiers or hikers in the Pacific Northwest, which is one of the draws for people to come here, want a place to store their things, their holiday decorations, all of those things. Storage is a big deal for young families and active participants, in the Pacific Northwest that want to get out and hike. So staging options, we kind of covered that. I do that again case by case, but my general recommendation is yes, yes, yes. Let's stage it to give it a fresh taste. And it's really funny. I've done this many, many times. And the sellers walk through and say, oh my gosh, I kind of wish I painted this room a long time ago. For instance, the Motley house I just brought on, it was her mom's home, and there was this faded pink wallpaper in every room. And it was really a pity because it had beautiful mahogany trim, window trim, and the archways and the fireplace. It was just a gorgeous Tudor. So I convinced her, I said, I want to paint over your mom's wallpaper. We'll paint it beautiful creamy white, and then the beautiful mahogany trim will just pop. And she was really nervous about it, but my painter has seen it, done everything. And he did it, and it just transformed the rooms, the living room, the dining room. It was spectacular. So there's little tricks of the trade that I have learned over the years from my wonderful painter and my stager that will help you get multiple offers and go above your list price. And I can't promise we're going to get multiple offers every time, but I do my best job to put you in a position where we hope to create multiple offers. First week of December is pretty unusual, so I was really fortunate. As I said, we do professional video, open house, virtual open house. Virtual open house was something we did more in the beginning of COVID. I don't do that anymore. I do an open house. I wear a mask. I ask people to wear a mask if your home is occupied, just because I want to be careful. My parents are 88, and I'm super cautious. I took mine off only because I'm up here speaking to you all. And then I also have the house cleaned before we go live on the market. So your regular housekeeper or whomever want to come in and do deep cleaning. They clean out the refrigerator, they clean out the stove, they clean behind the refrigerator, all of those good things. The home needs to be pristine because people want to walk in and see pride of ownership and say, oh my gosh, I want to move in here tomorrow. I will say today's buyers are sophisticated and well-informed. They know their prices, they know price per square foot, particularly my Microsoft engineers and my Amazon engineers. But they are savvy and they have high expectations. It's not like 35 years ago when I bought my first home. I was happy to buy a fixer in Madison Park. It was fantastic. So I slowly made improvements over the years. And today's buyers are a little bit more demanding. They have a lot of money and they have the ability to purchase in higher price ranges. So thus, we need to do everything we can to make your home perfect, picture perfect. Web and digital marketing, again, Coldwell Banker has, golly, hundreds of different sites. We have our own YouTube channel. We can be on TikTok, we can be on Coldwell Banker Bain. So we have a lot of social media options. And the other thing I will say is a huge percentage of people buy their homes on social media. They are intrigued, they'll see the first picture and say, oh my gosh, so call their agent and say, I gotta get in there. If an agent's not able to show the house, they usually send somebody else. And the agents, so here's the good news for you. I've been doing this a long time. It's the old 80-20 rule. 20% of us do the majority of the business. And so odds are good that I'm gonna know most of the realtors that would be looking at your homes. So they know they can call me and say, Beth, can you meet my client at 7 o'clock tonight to show them your home? Of course I will. I want to get you highest and best offer. So that's another sort of customer service piece that I'm a little different. I'm a bit of a workaholic, just ask my family. But I will do that. I want to help people get into your home. So social media is a big buzz and it's a big deal. Here's my stats. So 40% of agents cited social media as the best source for quality leads. Well, leads, in that term here, I mean people who might buy your home. They'll call and say, hey, I saw this. I'm in Atlanta, but I'm going to be in Seattle next weekend. May I make an appointment with you to come see the house? Absolutely. So we have all kinds of, Facebook is huge. So we have all kinds of social ad engines now. So we have a lot of places where we can get eyeballs on your spectacular home. And again, I just want to reiterate, you must have fantastic photography to capture people's hearts and say, oh my gosh, I want to see that. Okay, step 4. So you've done all of this preparation to get your home ready for market. And part of that I didn't say is, so sometimes I have you take things out of rooms. So sometimes I call it decluttering. People have lots and lots of little Hummels. They have lots of people have Hummel collections. I'm like, those all got to go because first of all, a Hummel, I just plop pretty well in my purse. And I don't want that to happen on my watch. Thank the Lord, I've never had it happen, knock on wood. But it's because I tell everybody ahead of time, all your valuables must be out of the home. If it can fit in a woman's purse, get rid of it. If it's paper mache that your grandson made and it's priceless to you, out of the home. Same thing with any meds, pharmaceuticals, meds, out of the house. I have to say I've been very fortunate and I have an eagle eye, stand at the front door and I shake hands, or maybe I bow now, I don't know what I'm doing with COVID, but I shake hands or do the elbow or the knuckles and just say, welcome, and I'm sizing every single person up that's coming into your home. So one, I want to know who the real buyers are, I want to know who the neighbors are, and I want to know whose daughter or son is looking, so that I let them walk through the home. If it's a large home, I'll have another agent or two, or my assistant, there to help show the home and answer questions. And then on the way out, I'm quietly keeping a tally, so I can tell you how many people were in your home that day. And I'm also going to discern who's a real buyer and who is not. Because the real buyers, I'm going to say, who is your agent? And then follow up with their agent to say, I met your buyer today. Do you have any questions about this home? And when can you come see it? So I really manage the process very thoroughly. And also it's a safety issue as well. If somebody is a little odd or a little off, I have the right to say you're not welcome here. I've only had to do that once in my career. Kind of a creepy guy. Unfortunately, I had a few men there. I escorted them out. But anyway, that doesn't happen very often. But the bottom line is, I'm there sizing everybody up, and we're live trying to find a buyer for your home. Yes, sir.
Question about taking things out of the house.
Yes.
I've got a lot of lockable storage. Is that good enough, or is that not good enough?
So the question is, he has a lot of lockable storage, and I have had people do that. They have these beautiful china cabinets, and we lock or put a ribbon on the door saying, please do not touch. And again, if it's something that's really valuable, I would feel more comfortable having it out of the home. And the other thing is, I don't want it to feel like there's a ton of stuff in the dining room. I want there to be light.
Be down in the lower level.
On the lower level of the home.
Storage room or something.
And the lower level, your basement, your garage, it's more forgivable. On your main floor, I want there to be space. There's something called feng shui. You need to have openings, easy access into the living room and the dining room. I have this wonderful friend of mine whose parents said they would just own him. They lived in Taiwan if he bought a home that didn't have feng shui, proper feng shui. So I got a great education on that. But it's not only, it's lots of different populations that want good feng shui. We have learned that, okay, you don't walk into a room and the couch is back to you. It's not welcoming, it's not opening. So I want to have lots of space available. So I actually have people remove furniture from their living room, dining room, and sometimes their basement, because I don't want it to feel cluttered or overwhelmed. I want people to go in and feel all this great space. I want them to see if you have natural light, which is a really big deal in Seattle. If you have southern or western light, I'm going to tout that all day long, because that really matters to us Seattleites. So to answer your question, I would kind of have to see it. If it felt overwhelming and there's a lot of stuff here, then I would say, let's take it out. Begins with that's a case by case. If it feels too crowded, if you have lots of stuff crowding every single wall, I would want to remove a few pieces. So again, that it feels open. The sensation for the human mind is you want open space and clean, so it doesn't look like there's too much stuff. So again, that's kind of a case by case. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just thought of one other question though. We have a lot of large, paintings and so forth in the house. Taking them out of the house could be complicated. Again, I've got room to put them in a safe locked room downstairs. Would that be okay?
So the question is, he's got some valuable paintings in the home. What to do with those? I sold a home over at Webster Point, Walhurst, where it was a Jim Wilson design, and he had designed this huge, great hallway to display his art and to have the symphony come put on concerts. It was an extraordinary home. But he felt, since his artwork was so large, no one was going to take it off the wall, fetch it, and take it. So in your instance, yeah, if you have smaller pieces of art that again can go in a bag, I prefer they be away under lock and key. Yeah, anytime you have something valuable, that always gives me pause. Most people have insurance when they have, a Van Gogh in the home or something, but it always makes me nervous. One of my clients has this beautiful Van Gogh over their fireplace, and I just said, So in that instance, I'm at every single showing. So when there's real art in the home that's very valuable, I'm at every single showing. But normally that's not the case. So yeah, if you have art to put away under lock and key, I would say that's probably fine. Yes, ma'am.
You have to be careful too that people come in pictures and you might get somebody who comes and steals their things here.
True. I guess security system.
True, but if it's under lock, she said that you have to be careful. Someone might take pictures and come back, sort of case your house and rob you. So that brings up a good point. Thank you for mentioning that. You need to tell your insurance company that you're putting your home on the market. They need to know that your home is going to be available, and there are going to be strangers walking through. Now, again, knock on wood, I've never had that happen. Most of my clients remove the valuables, and they have a security system. But you're right, you need to always be vigilant. You're absolutely right. Okay, so where are we here? So you clean the home. Oh, COVID precautions. So this little sign down here, this signs this home has been thoroughly cleaned. This is something we use during COVID all the time because people were so concerned about it. I still ask people to clean their homes. I no longer put this on the front door. People assume the home has been cleaned. And we're a little bit more open now about COVID. I mean, as I said, I still wear a mask just because I want to be respectful to, if the home is occupied, then I have everybody wear a mask that comes in the home. If the home's not occupied, then I wear a mask and I'm a little more easygoing on that. And the other thing is I will vet each buyer by speaking with their lender. If somebody is really interested, then I'll call their agent, as I mentioned earlier, and I'm not only going to say, are they interested? Have we answered all your questions? I'm going to ask, who is their lender? So we've had an experience of these, fly-by-nights online lenders. I am not going to encourage you to take one of those. Those online lenders we can't reach. I can't reach their underwriting department. And so I'll tell them, my client has the ultimate call here, but my job is to protect my client. I want a real bank. I want a real bank whose underwriting department I can call. I want to know that they have been pre-approved. I don't want to work with some entity I've never heard of. That very seldom ends well. That doesn't exist here. That doesn't exist here, right. That makes me really nervous. And so I don't want to do that. So so that's one of the things that is my job is I vet all of your buyers to make sure they're able to perform. Okay. And then 5, so we've sold your home. We have an offer, we've got to mutual acceptance. So what happens now? And again, as I mentioned earlier, this is when all the work begins. So sometimes they want to do their own inspection, which is fine. Part of the law of real estate agency is that we want buyers to be subjectively satisfied. That protects you and me. They've conducted their own inspection and they're comfortable with the home. So that's great. We like that, we approve that. Title's going to be doing its job, doing a deep dive to make sure there are no surprises, no easements, no liens on the home. Then one of the other things is I create a calendar to keep track of each item and timeline for the seller and my team. So I create, okay, we went to mutual acceptance on this date. The inspection's 2 days later. Inspection response is due 3 days later. So it's a lot coming at you, but I manage it and I put it all on the calendar just because I happen to be a very visual person. But we're gonna be connected at the hip. So I'm gonna be in constant contact with you and we'll go back and forth and I'll give you information real time. That's my job. Yes, sir.
So what if the potential buyer does have to expect to find some significant things that need to be dealt with? What process happens then? Is it a negotiation or you just have to write checks?
Great question. So the question is, if a buyer's inspector finds multiple things that need to be fixed, what do? The inspection is the second point of negotiation in a transaction. So if they say, oh my gosh, your roof is a disaster, and just say my inspector didn't already find that out, he would already know that was an issue. But if they said, so say in this instance, your roof is a disaster, and your sewer scope, you're days away from being backed up. So you need to do these two things. So you have the option as a seller to say, okay, I'm gonna get bids for that roof, and I'm gonna get bids for the sewer scope and find out what it's gonna take. Can they just go in and rotor it? Do they have to reline it? Do we just have to put poison down the pipes, which I really dislike? So then we come back to them and say, here are the bids we have. We're gonna meet you halfway. We're gonna put in a new roof, but your new sewer line is gonna cost you 12 grand, and I'm not gonna do that. I would rather just put my home back in the market with somebody who doesn't care. So depending on what the market's like, if there's no other competition, then the buyer may say, okay, we'll meet you halfway. You pay for one and I'll pay for the other. Sometimes they'll say, no, you pay for the whole thing or I'm walking. The important thing for you to know in Washington state law, the inspection, the buyer has the ability to have a subjective satisfaction. So if they say, no way, I don't like that, I'm out of here, they get their earnest money back and we have to put the home back on the market. So we weigh a couple things in that instance. How reasonable is the listing agent and the buyer? Will they meet us halfway? Or are you gonna be stuck with the whole thing? What's the market like? If you had multiple offers, then I always put the second offer into backup position. And oftentimes when there's a multiple offer, the people I'm trying to put in backup position are sad or mad, and they go away with the tail between their legs. But if I call the next day and say, okay, we're having an inspection and they're not happy with the roof, do you want to be in backup? Would you like to move in and buy this home? And that's the beauty of having a backup, because you have insurance and you have a little bit more ability to negotiate with buyer number one. So every single one of these is a case by case, depending on the situation, depending on the cost of what they want. A roof is expensive, so is a sewer line. So we sort of pick our poison. What are you comfortable with? If you have a deadline, if you want to move in here tomorrow and you want the house sold, you may say, oh my gosh, Beth, I've owned the home for 40 years, fine. I will just take care of both. But the inspection, this is a really good point for you all to know and understand. Thank you for asking the question. The inspection is the second opportunity to negotiate with your buyer. And that's a really important thing for you to know. There are two opportunities. Yes, sir.
Can you get competing inspections? If one says this is a problem, when one says it's not a problem, then what do you do in that?
So the question is, can you get competing advice or instruction from two inspections? I have never had that happen. Usually it's pretty obvious what the problem is. I have had my inspector find things that the other inspector missed, and that's why I use him, because he's really good. I have a couple of guys I use. Again, not all inspectors, just like real estate agents, are not all the same. There are some that are very good at what they do, and there's some that are terrible. So if you were my buyer, I would always get another inspection, because I know my inspector is superb, and not everybody else's are. And fortunately, there's a lot of inspectors in Seattle, but I know one or two that aren't so great. So if they've done the home, I'm absolutely getting a second inspection. No, great question. Did I answer your?
Well, I just wonder if you get to a point in this negotiation where you're challenging each other, either party can walk away, right?
Yes, the question is, if you have two competing, I guess, answers or bids, what happens? And so in that instance, it's the buyer who has ordered the inspection. So ultimately, it falls back on the buyer to decide what they want to do. You as a seller are just saying, we've done our inspection, this is what our expert said. Your expert doesn't agree, so take it or leave it. And again, at this point in the transaction, their earnest money is refundable to them if they do this all within the time frame they're given. The contract specifies how much time you have to do an inspection, how much time you have for an inspection response. And again, I'm all over that. So I have a calendar and I'm watching every single deadline to make sure I keep you on track. Yes, ma'am.
When do you make your inspection available to?
Immediately. Thanks for coming, sir. So the question is, when do I make my inspection available? So I do a pre-inspection, and I usually do a sewer scope, and I hold on to that. Some agents put it on the listing attached so everybody can see. I want to know who are the serious buyers, and so I hold it back to say, call me if you'd like it, and I will send it to you, because my job again is to track who are the serious buyers. So when I'm at an open house and if I have 50 people through, generally half of them are looky-loos. They're your neighbors coming to check out the home, which is fine. They're our very best ambassadors. They know and love the neighborhood. But I want to zero in on who are the actual buyers. So I have them call me. The agent will call me and say, hey, my client John was in there today. It loves the home. We've sent it to me. So I have a running list of who are all the serious buyers, because those are the people I want to pay attention to and I want to court. Great question.
Second
Yes.
is, if you've had things like earthquake retrofit, you've had the oil tank filled, what kinds of documents do you want to have?
Great question. The question is, what kind of documents do I want to have when we go to list your home? She's talking about the oil tank being properly decommissioned. That's a really big deal. I'm always astounded and a little annoyed when a listing agent cannot tell me if the oil tank in their backyard, in the client's backyard, has been decommissioned or not. It's just an extra step that we do as listing agents. If you don't know, then I call Phil out and get it done. That's a really big deal because again, that gives peace of mind to people. So if your oil tank has been decommissioned, then I'll ask you for a copy of the paperwork. I scan it and I attach it to the listing saying, here, the oil tank's been properly decommissioned. The roof is 5 years old with a 50-year warranty. So as much good information in detail that will help a buyer feel secure and good about paying a premium price for your home is fantastic. Great question. Thank you. I compile all of that. Yes.
So there's certain kinds of flooring, I don't know if it's vinyl or linoleum or what, that may have asbestos in them at a certain age. So speak to that.
So the question is, and some of our older homes in Seattle have asbestos usually in the basements, in the tile, that old red and black, tile. So that can be a concern. As long as you do not touch it, penetrate it, it's fine. But it will intimidate some people, some of the younger buyers out there. Those of us who've been around for a while, we just know not to touch it. Same thing in the ceilings, the popcorn ceilings, those also have asbestos many times. So again, that's a really good question, and we try to be proactive up front. If we know there's asbestos, we can have it tested, because people will say, is there asbestos in this tile? And odds are good, if your home is 50 years or more older, odds are really good, there's asbestos in there. So that is clear and people can see that. We don't have to print anything, it's obvious. Anyone who's been selling real estate at open house, someone will say, Beth, do you think that has asbestos in there? And my answer is, odds are pretty good. You're welcome to do a test if you wish. So it depends again on the seller. If you want me to get it tested, we can get it tested, like $285 or something. And then we say to people, yeah, it has asbestos in it. But if you want this fantastic home that's in the neighborhood you want your kids to go to school, and similar to your question, they may say, fine, override, we'll deal with it. We want this house, we want this neighborhood. But that's a really good question. So if you know, so in most situations, if it's obvious, I'll say it probably does. And if somebody wishes to test it, we can test it. So that one, I sort of feel like when it's obvious, less is more. We don't have to test it. And if you wish to, we certainly can. I'm not sneaky. I'm just saying if it's obvious. So in the rule of law, if people can see that it's the red and black old tile, those of us who've been in the business a long time know that it probably has asbestos in it. And if I'm in an open house and someone asks me, I'm always going to tell the truth. I don't know, but I bet the answer is yes. So that kind of depends on the home, what time of year we put it on the market. If it's prime season like spring, I'll say, just leave it. I can sell your house without that. If it's December and everything's quiet, people are out of town, then I might say, let's test it so we can just disclose. So do you see what I mean? It's a little bit different on supply and demand as to when I'll do that. Does that make sense to you? Okay.
I haven't seen a disclosure form in recent years for selling your house, but could you, in the current version, still put in a note saying home is over X years old? There are materials in the home that could.
Absolutely, and that's what I would have you do.
Just so you know.
Yes,
Be
yes.
aware that they might follow up with questions.
The question is a really good one, and I should have said
You
that.
know, material, it's covered up by
Right.
something else.
Well, yeah, right, and so yes, okay, so the question is,
Not even know.
correct, and I have had situations like that. So the question is a very good one, and I should have followed up to your question with this. So whenever you sell your home, so he was saying, if you think there might be asbestos in the basement, but you don't know, can you address that in what's called the Form 17? It's the seller disclosure. And this is how you would feel comfortable and telling the truth, is that the home is X number of years old, the tile in the basement may have asbestos in it. So you're disclosing it. You don't know, you have not tested it, but you're saying it may have. And so that's just, honesty is always the best policy. And so, yes, I would have you disclose that in the Form 17. You're absolutely right. So you're right, I sold a home in View Ridge last year, Hawthorne Hills, and in the basement they had carpet. But I wanted to know what was under the carpet. And so in the closet, somebody had pulled back a little bit and you could see the red and black tile. So I said, oh gosh, I'm pretty sure this has asbestos. And my inspector said, that absolutely has asbestos. So we went back to the sellers and said, we need an allowance because there's some challenges with your house. We need to have like $20,000 in a credit to you. The sellers do not want to know what's wrong with it. You know there may be a problem, but if they have it tested, and you still don't want to know, because if you knew for sure, we'd have to disclose, yes, there's asbestos in the house. But if this buyer really wants your home in this neighborhood, they're going to say, we're going to take it as is. So yes, that's what I would do in your situation. I would say, my home is 100 years old, 75 years old. That basement tile may have asbestos in it. So you're off the hook. You're legally, you've said you don't know, it could be there. So that's always the best policy, is just to tell the truth. So I'm sorry, Form 17, sorry?
What do you mean about you have an allowance, $20,000?
Oh, so again, the inspection is where you can negotiate. We found out that this home had asbestos tile under the carpet. Well, my clients want to pull that all up and make that basement into a playroom for their 3-year-old. So, and they're both physicians. So they said, holy smokes, I don't want asbestos in my house. So they're going to hire, so I got 2 bids for them, and they're going to hire someone to come in and take it all out. But they wanted the seller to pay for it. So I negotiated from the list price, so say it was $1,450,000. So I negotiated down to $1,420,000, because the difference is what they're going to use to remediate that basement. Does that make sense?
Okay, so you get the bids to find out what it would cost,
Exactly.
and then if you tell the seller,
Right.
and they say, okay, yes, if
Right.
the buyer requests,
Yes.
then you can lower the price by
Correct.
whatever that bid is.
Exactly. And so that is a good example of where inspection, the buyer asks you for something, and you can either say yes or no. In this instance, they came on too high, and they've been on the market for about 4 weeks. And this was last July. And so I know that area very well. 4 weeks is a long time. If you don't get action in the first 2 weeks, you need to drop your price. You need to be competitive to the market. Because if you are not competitive, your home will be stigmatized. And people will say, oh, what's wrong with that house? And there's nothing wrong. We just came on too high. So it's our job to keep my ear close to the ground to see what things are selling for. So yes, in that instance, that's an example of where a buyer said, we want to buy your home. We're not going to tell you what's wrong, but there's an issue, and we want a credit. And the seller knew that they've been on the market a while, and that they better do something. And this was a very good listing agent. She knew if I was telling her there was a fundamental issue, she knows me and my reputation. She knows that there had to be something bad for me to ask for that. And I said, I'm happy to tell you. And she said, we don't want to know. So that's an agent going to bat for you to say, well, in this case, it was the buyer's agent going to bat. It was me. I was the representative buyer now to say, okay, we want a $20,000 credit because that's what both of the bids said it would be. So if she needed me to present the bids, I had them in hand to say, here are the bids to get rid of that asbestos. So that is a real example that could come back to you in that situation. But you're protected by simply doing in the seller disclosure, where it may have asbestos. And that keeps you, so I sold a home in Montlake, just to give you another example of the seller disclosure, and the seller had this darling home, she had to put a lot of money into it, but the next door neighbor was gonna build a mansion next to her. And he was gonna put an ADU right in front of her bedroom window. And she said, I'm out of here. This is ridiculous. I don't want this. So in her seller's disclosure, she said, next door neighbor may be building a very large home. So again, she did that just to be truthful and to disclose. She knew that that guy next door is going to build a big old McMansion and take her view. So again, I always, honesty is the best policy in life. So you always want to state it, and people can do more research if they wish.
See, and that's why when you said the seller didn't want to know
Yes.
what the problem was that
Correct.
that you had discovered, because then they would have to disclose.
Right.
Is that it?
Correct. So the question was, is that why the seller did not want to know what the issue was? Because if we went away, if they did not give us the credit, we were going to go away and they would have to disclose what we discovered in the inspection process. And they did not want to know what the problem was. It's a little bit silly, it's a little bit of a game, but it's real, and that's what we deal with. So yeah, this agent knew I had a serious buyer. I told the story. They both worked, one worked at Children's Hospital, one worked down the road. They really wanted this neighborhood for their daughter, but they weren't going to deal with this issue. And so this issue, it is sort of odd when people don't want to know. I want to know everything, but because you have to, as a seller, you have to tell the whole world if you find out what the problem is. That makes sense? These are all really good real-time issues, I gotta say. Okay, so mutual acceptance. The other things that happen here, appraisals ordered and conducted for offers that have a financing contingency. We occasionally see cash offers, and in that instance, I just need to make sure the cash is real. Walk through. So the other thing is the buyer has the ability to walk through the home within 5 days of closing. So in this instance, we did a walkthrough. The remediation of asbestos had not happened yet. They had decided they would just do that on their time frame. Normally, when you ask for repairs and inspection, the seller must make those repairs prior to closing. So just know that that normally would happen. And that goes to your question too, Dennis. And then I arrange a convenient time for you to sign the closing papers. It's usually 1 or 2 days prior to the closing date. I also have a mobile notary. They can come to you wherever you are. I've sold homes to people out of the state, so we can make that all happen. And then the era of electronic signatures alive and well. You can sign. So anyway, excuse me, I'm just taking my water. Sorry about that. Okay, much better. And I make arrangement for escrow to wire funds into your desired account. And the other thing I will say is you need to know that wire fraud is on the rise. With everybody working from home during COVID, people do not have sophisticated filters, and a lot of people have been taken advantage of. So I tell people, and I really do want to put the fear of God in you, you do not talk to anyone who is not the person I told you to talk to. You only speak with your escrow officer or their team member, and you only respond to their emails. If someone calls you and says, I'm with Chicago Title, or I'm with Rainier Title, someone you've never heard of, don't know the name, you're gonna say, no thanks, I'm sorry, I'm gonna hang up now and call back and speak to my representative. And I'm deadly serious. A guy in our office had a buyer lose $40,000 because he answered the phone and someone said, I'm so-and-so. It was not the name he'd been given. And he said, oh, sure, here's my account. Do not do that. And I will walk along beside you and hold your hand and be there the morning you call the person, because I do not want you to do that. In 18 years, again, knock on wood, I've never had a problem, but you need to be very careful about this because it is on the rise. So I just want to put that out there for all of you to pay attention to that. Okay, next you have sold your, okay, so this is a calendar, an example of the calendar I put together. My wonderful marketing people erased everything I had in there, but I had inspection review. I put all the dates in there so that you're in sync with me. Okay, and then so the grand finale, we have sold. So I will need you to leave all your key copies, usually on the kitchen counter, the garage door opener, people forget that all the time. And then I will give the keys, once we hear from escrow that our transaction has been recorded down at the King County Courthouse, then and only then may I give the keys to the new buyer. And then, of course, I meet with you somewhere to give you a bottle of champagne that we did it. The other thing I like to ask of my sellers is if you provided a list of your caretakers. If you had a gardener, a landscaper, when are the garbage days, when is the annual picnic in your neighborhood? That's just kind of a nice thing to leave a list for the new owners. And then obviously, I will sometimes ask you, it depends on the situation. Sometimes the sellers will say, I really like these new buyers. Beth, feel free to give my number if you have any questions. And sometimes people are like, nope, we're moving on. So that's a case by case too. But it's a really nice gesture to leave information about your home and your neighborhood. Yeah, and that's really it. So those are my, here's all my pretty pictures of homes I've sold. So I've sold a lot of homes in my 18 years, all over King County. Well, that was a Sumiala in Magnolia. Oh, this is out on Port Townsend. That was a really cool house. This is an equestrian estate down in North Bend. This is a condo on Capitol Hill. Capitol Hill. Oh, a lot on Capitol Hill. Mount Baker. And that's it. So if you have any other questions, I think we're going to, go ahead, Louise.
What do you think the Seattle market will be like this year and next?
So the question is, what do I think the Seattle market will be this year and next? Again, so I just gave you the most recent stats. We are returning to a more balanced market, which is good news really for everybody concerned. I don't like taking shortcuts. I just think that's somewhat irresponsible for both sides in the transaction, sellers and buyers. We're hoping the interest rates drop down. They were up this week, unfortunately, for buyers. The thing we tell people, we have a new saying. Of course, in every market, we have new sayings. And in this market, we say, date the rate, marry the home. So because people lock into a rate, and again, my parents bought when it was in the double teens. I bought in the double digits. And then refinance as the rate goes down. So that's what people need. If you have a school district you want your kids to go to, if you want to be able to walk or ride your bike to work, the location is still king in real estate. So despite all these adversarial components in our world we have right now, higher interest rates, inflation coming at us, all of those things you read in the daily newspapers, we still believe that Seattle has a very balanced economy, as I just mentioned earlier in my talk. It's not all just tech. It's a lot of BioLife, biomed companies, Intermed, Boeing. So we feel like we have been insulated for a great period of time in the last decade. Obviously the fact that tech has had some firings and downsizing is sobering. It hits the psyche. But at the end of the day, it's a human need. People need a home. They need a roof over their head. So we still see buyers and sellers. I will say my buyers are a little more judicious right now. So those who were going to buy a home that was $1.5 million are now looking at $1.25 million. My $1 million home buyers are now at $800,000. So buyers are responding to the market and they're responding to the fear because there is fear out there. But life still marches forward. People get raises, people get married, people have kids. So people still need the housing market. I will say, the last time the bottom went out, the lending committee was hugely to blame. If someone had a breath, they were getting loans. They had no business getting loans. And back then, a lot of my Microsoft clients all wanted me to use somebody online. And I said, no way. I cannot call their underwriting department. They're in a different time zone. And I need to be nimble. I need to be able to reach people right now. Because representing you as sellers, I want the facts, and I only want someone who's going to perform for you. So having said that, we are returning to more inventory, thank goodness. We're hoping, again, I don't know, I have no crystal ball, but we're hoping all the, the feds and the talk is that interest rates are hopefully can come down later this spring, but it's been a little schizophrenic. It's been up and down, up and down, up and down. So we don't really know. We're hopeful, we're optimistic. But again, in this changing fluid market, my answer to you is that you need a skilled agent who reads the market well, who prices properly, who markets your home properly, and can get your home sold. So I guess I would answer it that way. Is you want a veteran agent. You probably don't want a rookie. I love my rookies. I mentor a lot of rookies in my office, but they lean on me for questions like that because really, truly, no one knows the answer. I mean, everybody's giving their annual forecast right now, and it's kind of funny. Some people say one thing and some say the other. So the truth of the matter is, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I mean, we've never had a war in my lifetime in Ukraine. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of things in our world that are more complicated. But I will say, if you go by the rules, you hire the best people to support you, be it an inspector, be it your realtor. The other thing I will say is you have to like your realtor. If all things are equal, if they're skilled and all that, you need to work with someone you like because you're going to spend a lot of time with us. So that's something that's kind of a random thought, but it's true. So I'm not completely answering your question, but I'm giving you the best I have.
No, I understand that it's a difficult thing, but I know that real estate companies have financial analysts who sort of give them a view of a projection of what may happen.
We do, and I'm actually happy to send you a couple of, I can send Jill a couple of economists. So the National Association of Realtors has someone, some of the big banks, Chase has one, Gardner, what's his first name? Matthew Gardner, thank you, is, he's actually on Windermere's tab now, but he does an annual one, he's very good. So I'm happy to send Jill a couple to give you because they're all different flavors, but it is interesting. So I'm happy to send those to Jill if you want to get those, yeah. And then you all also have my card in your packet. So if you have further questions, I know we're doing a bathroom break, aren't we?
I have one quick question. Sure. I know we're hitting 2:17, so I want to be really mindful of everyone's time, but this was back a couple slides ago really quickly. When you're in the process of selling your home, so I just sold my condo and I bought a home recently.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was encouraged that we didn't live in the home during the staging. And so this is an opportunity. I'd love your answer on kind of best practice for that. But this is a great opportunity in terms of partnering with Bayview, where if you have a move-in ready apartment here, you could live in Bayview and still stage your home and not live in there. So just curious on your insight about staging and best practices of living in your home versus not living in your home.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Routine. That is fantastic that you can live in Bayview. That's huge. Because so many of my clients say, Beth, I don't know where to put my stuff. But the answer is, so my preference would be that you are out of the home when we stage it. Some stagers will no longer stage a home that's occupied, mostly because they've had problems with animals, cats or dogs hurting their furniture, that people spill coffee. So the answer is, my preference would be you either go out of town for a week, take your kids to Disneyland or something, or the best scenario will be moving your things to Bayview if they've got storage here for you, because it's just simpler. Most agents are honorable and will, honor the hours of showing time. We have a system called showing time where you make an appointment and show up. Once in a while, you'll find a renegade person who's knocking on your door at dinner time. Well, that's just rude. You have to make an appointment to see the home. But once in a while, people in this market where there's no inventory, people are going to want to be seeing your home day and night. It'll be a crazy flood. It's really hard to keep your home perfect, particularly after you've put the beautiful white fluffy tails in the bathroom and someone is taking the dog for a walk and it's muddy and rainy out and wipes it. I tell my people, the kids don't get to touch those towels. But that's a great question. Thank you for asking, Grace. My preference and suggestion would be for you to move out of your home during the sales process. I mean, it takes about, hopefully it'll take a short amount of time. And I also will tell you this, I don't want you to move back in until after the appraisal. I want the home to be staged for the appraisal because we're trying to get top dollar. That's a big deal as well. Thank you for asking that question. That's a really big deal. Any other questions before we take a break? Oh, sorry. That's you, Jill.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, if there's no other questions, if we can give Beth Toomey a wonderful thank you for coming here.
Thank you all much for being here today.
Thank you so much. So I know we're hitting 2:20, and I want to, no, thank you very much for that.